out on the open range. No blacksmith follows the herd. No horseshoes are nailed. No hooves are trimmed. Yet America's wild horses run for miles across rock, sand, and sagebrush, many for decades, without limping, breaking down, or needing a stable. So what's the secret of wild horse hooves? Wild horses in North America are not a separate species, but feral descendants of domesticated stock brought over by Spanish explorers in the 1500s. The first permanent horse population took hold near what's now New Mexico and Texas. Over time, escapees and released cavalry, they spread across the American West. Today, they roam federal lands from Nevada to Montana, numbering over 80,000 by recent counts. Unlike domesticated horses, which live in fenced pastures or stables, wild horses walk 10 to 20 miles every single day. That's 16 to 32 kilometers. That constant movement across varied, hard terrain naturally wears the hoof wall evenly. Hooves are made of keratin, the same protein as human fingernails. But wild horses, they self-maintain through motion, friction, and pressure from rocky ground. The very thing that would injure a stall-kept horse, hard ground, uneven paths, sharp gravel, it's exactly what keeps the wild horse's foot in perfect shape. Domesticated horses, especially those kept in soft paddocks or wet conditions, they develop overgrown hooves, fungal infections, or sole softness. Wild horses rarely do. And the reason is biomechanical. A wild horse's hoof isn't just shorter, it's tougher and wider at the base, and forms a callous sole that's nearly impenetrable. This is called a mustang roll, named after the mustangs that developed it. The rounded edge prevents splitting, while the concave sole flexes with movement. The hoof essentially becomes a self-cleaning, self-trimming, terrain-hardened tool. Domesticated breeds over time lost some of the resilience. Selective breeding favored muscle, speed, and size, but not necessarily hoof toughness. That's why farriers, professional hoof specialists, they must intervene approximately every 6 to 8 weeks with trims, corrections, or shoes. Shoes, they're not ornamental. They protect the weaker hoof from splitting under load or slipping on wet pavement. But when wild horses are brought into captivity, their hooves quickly change. Without their daily miles over varied terrain, the self-trimming immediately stops. They begin to need care like any other horse. Nature's farrier only works under natural conditions. For centuries, Native American tribes observed these differences. The Comanche, famed for their horse skills, knew that letting a horse run barefoot for miles toughened their feet. Early U.S. Army cavalry manuals noted similar findings and recommended turning remounts loose in rocky paddocks to harden hooves before deployment. So what can modern horse owners learn from wild herds? Some barefoot advocates try to replicate wild conditions using gravel paddocks, long-distance turnout, or trimming techniques based on Mustang models. But even the best-managed domestic horse won't quite match the wild hoof. It's not just movement, it's diet, moisture, genetics, and instinct. Wild horses don't walk in circles. They track herds. They avoid predators. And they search for scarce water over punishing distances. The lesson, then, isn't just about hoof care. It's about how the land itself, unforgiving and unshaped, becomes the craftsman. A wild horse's hoof is not pampered, but proven. Strength doesn't come from shelter or shortcuts. It comes from weathering the sharp edge of real ground over real time. And that first image, no blacksmith, no stable, just the sound of hooves on stone, isn't just how the wild horses live. It's how its body remembers what it's meant to endure. These are Interesting Things with JC.